Rebellions are built on hope.
Incoming transmission. Radio Rebellion.
Welcome to another episode of Radio Rebellion, a Star Wars podcast. How are you guys doing? Welcome as always. I am your host, Alberto Calderon, and I am happy to be here as always. So thank you guys for joining us today. Have a great show. We're talking episode 5 of the Bad Batch Rampage. Ooh, so much controversy about little Moochie. Moochie, we all love Moochie. And of course, we're also doing our spoiler review of the latest Thrawn novel, Greater Good. We got it here, red and black. I got my red Star Wars shirt today, my troopers, red and black. If we're talking Thrawn, Ascendancy, Greater Good. I mean, yeah, Greater Good. You gotta represent with your attire. But how are you guys doing? Thanks for joining us on another great Star Wars weekend. It's gonna be awesome. So, what a week in Star Wars. How do you guys pass this past week? Was it fun? Did you guys enjoy all the discourse out there? Man, Twitter's a place, man. This week it was a roller coaster of Star Wars. Not a lot of actual news, but a lot of stuff out there. It all started, I think it was Tuesday. We had the phase 2 or wave 2 of the High Republic. The embargo lifted and some non-spoiler reviews came out of those wave 2 novels. Everything was positive. Everything was very positive. All those 3 books, which are coming out in a few weeks. End of June is when the first 2 come out. And then in July, the third one comes out, Out of the Shadows from Justina Ireland. That comes out in July. But the other 2 come out in a couple of weeks. So the embargo lifted, some great feedback for those. So everyone was in a high. All the Star Wars social media was on a high. Everyone was very happy. And then at some point, close to noon or something, I think it was Collider released an interview with J.J. Abrams talking about the 10th anniversary of one of his other movies, Super 8. And then a question was posed or the topic came up. I haven't seen the video. I've seen some of the articles about it. And the topic of the sequel trilogy came out about having a story, planning everything out, which has been a point of contention, to say the least, for the sequel trilogy. A lot of people that have issues with the sequel trilogy use that as their biggest thing. There wasn't a story plan. There wasn't it wasn't mapped out. So the question was posed to JJ, or so it was brought up, and he said that if we could do things different, some things are better when you plan out and they work out. Sometimes you just go with the flow, see what it feels. So he would do things different. And then everyone went back on a negative streak on Star Wars Twitter. The same discourse that we have for 2 years from The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. Why you do this? Why you do that? It was just a mess, a bunch of negativity. But then by the end of the day, thank you, Christina, Ariel, everyone from the High Republic show. The High Republic show came out around 6 or 7 p.m. Eastern. Great show as always. We got some new news. There was some new books and comics coming out for the High Republic, and then everyone was in a positive state of mind again. So yeah, Star Wars was a roller coaster of emotions earlier this week. And then yesterday we had the Bad Batch come out. Of course, we're going to spend most of our time talking about it. Moochie, the Rancor. If you're watching this is spoilers, but everyone know who Moochie is. And then that created another chaos on Twitter yesterday. Easy or easy not the Rancor from Return of the Jedi. We'll get into it. And then some old comment from John Boyega talking about returning to the saga. And that created more drama yesterday. Again, they're just recycling all their news just to create all this drama. I couldn't take it. It's too much. Let's just focus on the positivity like we do here. So let's go ahead. We're talking Bad Batch. We're talking Thrawn Ascendancy, Greater Good. So let's go on. But as always, if you're watching this live right now, thank you all you guys on the chat. Thanks for being here. We're gonna have fun as always. Make sure that you're hitting that like button, hit that thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to the show, make sure to subscribe. Subscribe. We're going up in our subscriber numbers, and of course, leave us a comment down below if you're watching this later on the replay or if you're coming back and watching it again. Let us know what you thought, your overall thoughts on the Bad Batch so far, your thoughts on this 5th episode Rampage, and then your thoughts on Chaos Rising. Are you reading the Thrawn novels? Are you excited about the 2 that we've gotten already? And then we have the 3rd one, Lesser Evil, coming out, I think, in November, finishing up this finally. I'm guessing that 6th Thrawn novel, canon Thrawn novel, so maybe that's it for Thrawn. We'll see. All right, so before we start, as always, let's say hi to a couple of people that are in the chat. Our friend Dale. Dale is back. How you doing, Dale? It's been a while. You've been a busy man, Dale. Thanks for joining us today. And of course, our friend Mr. Rez, Tony's here. Having a lot of fun. And yeah, multitasking, Dale. That's the way you gotta do it. Multitask. Keep working. Have one earbud on. It doesn't matter. And Muchi, not the discourse. Not a much. I don't know. There's something. So Muchi was everywhere. So I didn't watch the episode till about 7:30 at night, but I knew the whole story about Muchi. Because, of course, even if we say don't spoil anything, by 6:30 in the morning, everything on Twitter is Bad Batch related. So you couldn't escape it. I couldn't escape Muchi. And for the most part, I didn't see a lot of negativity about it. Everyone loved Muchi. And some people, and we'll go more into it when we talk about the episode, it was easy or easy not. I think Muchi was a male Rancor. I'm forgetting now. It doesn't matter. Is it the one from Return of the Jedi or not? Are they retconning? Because I guess that one had a different name, Pala or whatever. Oh, Muchi's female. Thank you, Dale. Oh, here we are. Patisa. Patesa? Let's say Patisa is the Rancor from Return of the Jedi. Patisa is a male and means Frenzy Hotis. That's what I read. Again, I've never heard this. I didn't know that Rancor had a name. Dale, let me know if you know where that was revealed. Book, novel, expanded universe, in the credits. It doesn't matter. Patisa, Muchi is Patisa just, or Muchi just a nickname. Are they retconning again? Who doesn't matter? It's a Rancor. Have fun with it. So all right, so let's get on it. If you guys are ready, I know I'm ready. Let's talk Star Wars. And today, I've said it before, we are talking episode 5 of the Bad Batch, Rampage. It's another great episode, and I put it on Twitter earlier today. Or was it last night? It might have been last night. I can't remember. Finally, I'm starting to jump into the Omega bandwagon. I got one foot in on I'm holding by one hand. I have my other foot in. I mentioned last week when we did our review recap of the first 4 episodes, because I hadn't gotten to them. I mean, I had watched them. I just was taking a break from the podcast for a couple of weeks. That I like Omega. I wasn't sold on her like everyone else was. Since the first 5 minutes that she showed up on screen, everyone was, I'll die for Omega. No one touch Omega. Omega's the next. Don't mess with her. And I liked Omega. I wasn't. And okay, she's a new character. She's okay. I know as a parent, why are you doing that, Omega? No, stranger danger. I said it last week. Why are you going with Fennec Shan? That's a stranger. Just because she's a woman and she said, oh, I'll help you find your friends. That's how they get you. You only need a little candy. One of those, what is it? Turkish Delight, like Simo. That's how they get you. Stranger danger. So I had some issues. Not issues, but I liked Omega. I wasn't head over heels. But on this episode, she got me. And we'll get into it. All right, so just a quick recap. This episode starts. They're going to Ord Mantell, which we've heard this before in the movies. And they're going to find an old Jedi contact. Echo said, hey, there's an old contact here that the Jedi used to use. And we're going to get in touch with that person. And his name is Sid. They didn't know who he was. I think Wrecker said he or whatever. His name is Sid. And hopefully that person is gonna help us know who this bounty hunter was and why is they're tracking us. They didn't know who Fennec Shand was and all that. So they get to Old Mantell, and I'll say I don't know how many times we can say here, Twitter, everyone saying how beautiful this show looks. The animation is outstanding, and it keeps going this episode. What I'm starting to notice, and I should have noticed as soon as the series started, you can see the budget for this show is a lot different than it was for Rebels back in 2014 when that show started. Season 1 of Rebels was mostly everything on Lothal, very sandy, everything looked alike. So there wasn't a lot of different landscapes. All the planets were very similar till then the following seasons. It started getting a little bit more traction. The show was more popular, so it got more of a bigger budget for it. Here, since episode 1, we mentioned it last time when they went on Pantora, how beautiful that planet looked. I love that look of Pantora. And now even going to Ord Mantell, it's also a different look. And it shows you, again, how high the budget for this show is, that it can go to all these different planets. All of them look different. Here, it was very, I don't want to say noticeable, but Ord Mantell had different environments. So it had this kind of alleyway look, similar to Pantora, but not as high scale, I guess. There was this alleyways. We can see the colorful signs. They go into seats, business, then to her office. Everything looks different. Then they go to the actual outside, which was more dusty. Some of they were more used to in Star Wars. They came back to Sid's office. So it was a lot of changing. So you can see how big the budget is. That makes this show look beautiful. The best looking Star Wars show out there. Resistance was pretty good. It's just a different type of animation. So I love Sid, female Trandoshan. And correct me if I'm wrong, all you guys out there. This is the first time we see a female Trandoshan. We're used to those bounty hunter Trandoshans on Rebels and Clone Wars Season 7, working in the docks, every day, every man job. Here we get a female Trandoshan, look great, a different type of Trando that we've seen before. And I like that we've seen this. I mentioned before how much I like aliens that work just mundane day-to-day jobs. I love seeing now a female version of it with Sid working this kind of rundown bar or game setup. There's some pinball machines, it looks like, and then they go down to her office because she's this contact that the Jedi used to use. Jedi are gone, so they have to figure this out. So she's the one that they show her a hologram of Fennec Shand. They don't know who it is. Hey, can you help us who this bounty hunter is or who this person is? And she says, I don't know who she is, but I know a bounty hunter when I see one. I need you guys to do something for me. And then in the meantime, I'll get information about her. I need you to find this kid for me. Some slavers have this kid, some Sigerian slavers. Her name is Muchi. And I need you to bring her back because my employer wants her back. All right, we'll find your missing Muchi. And then that's when the episode starts and gets exciting. So let's circle back a little bit and go talk about Omega. I mentioned at the beginning that this was the episode that Omega really connected with me because she felt like an actual kid. This time Omega reminded me of both my kids when Tech gives her the comm device and she starts using it. Wrecker, where are you? Or Tech, where are you? Echo comes in. Hey, it's not a toy. Okay, not a toy. If you get a kid a walkie-talkie, that's exactly what they're going to do. I remember my kids doing this with, okay, turning it off. She used it again in Sid's office. So it reminded me completely of my kids and all the kids out there. Another great thing about Omega that has her looking more or acting more like a regular kid, which is what we expect now that she's out of Camino, it's being out, seeing the world a little bit, so hopefully starting to act more quote-unquote normal as a child. The earlier episode, she got that Stormtrooper, that Clone Trooper toy. Now she's working with it, changing its appearance to look like a Bad Batch character. Again, it's something that every kid does. If you have children, or even when we were younger, we all change our toys. If you had a Barbie, you cut her hair, dyed her hair, or do whatever. You have G.I. Joes, you change them all around to look like you want them to look. So she's doing this for that Clone Trooper toy, changing it more to a Bad Batch toy, with which again are things that kids do in their day-to-day regular lives as happy kids. That's what they do. So it's great to see Omega doing this, starting to, even though it's crazy world that she's in now, doing some things that regular kids do. So really love seeing that. So let's get to it. Sorry, drinking some water. I love the Siberian slavers. And let me repeat that. I love the look of the Siberian slavers. I don't love the slave trade. I don't like that. I love the look of those Siberian slavers, kind of very feline, like kind of cat-like. The armor was pretty awesome. And of course, they got the Bad Batch. They surprised them, took them in. Bad Batch is lost. They thought the little girl down by the ravine was Muchi. So they get caught, and then Omega has to come and rescue them. And she finds the actual Muchi, this Rancor, this juvenile Rancor, and lets her loose. And then chaos ensues. Cool thing. I mean, there are a lot of cool things in this episode. I feel myself saying cool thing a lot of times, but we know Hunter. Hunter's the tracker of the group. He's a great tracker. As soon as Muchi wreaks havoc, she comes out, knocks all the Siberian slavers out of the way, doesn't care. Then that guy comes out with his energy whip, which is a great design. Again, if you were reading High Republic and you read A Test of Courage, we know that Vernestra Rowe, one of those young Jedi, has a lightsaber that turns into a whip, a light whip. So here we see this energy whip that we had seen in the trailer before, and we saw it again here. We finally see it here. But then Muchi just goes and wrecks shop. Goes running, starts knocking people out. All these Siberian slavers get knocked out, and then Hunter goes, "Oh, we gotta follow Muchi. We gotta get her because that's our job." There's a Siberian slaver right there on the floor, just knocked out. Hunter kneels down next to it, kind of looks at the floor, and then points. "Oh, she went that way. Really? Do you need to track a 700-pound, 10-foot tall Rancor in this desert?" I don't think there's a lot of places for Muchi to hide. So it was funny and kind of questioning, why does Wrecker need to start going all the tracking to find Muchi? Just follow the trail of dead bodies or the screaming Rancor. I think it'll be easy to find, Hunter. But that's fine. You're dark and broody, like Sid said at the end. Another thing that I love about this episode and all the design was that flying reptile that the Siberians have, or a Bresak. She's the one that knocks out Echo, who was the lookout, and then the leader of the Siberians uses it to fight Muchi. So I love that Bresak, love the design. The face and the neck look a little bit like the Silo Beast. It was a great callback. Of course, a lot smaller. It was great seeing another monster in Star Wars. And then we have that fight between Muchi and the Bresak, which was pretty awesome. Muchi ends up biting her tail twice, smacking that Bresak against the floor, throwing it against the rocks on the mountain cliff. So a pretty good fight. And then, of course, Wrecker finally gets to do what Wrecker does. "Oh, yes, this I can do." Because the Echo goes, he checks his little data pad. Yeah, Rancor is an alpha society, hierarchy society, unite to fight the alpha for dominance. And Wrecker finally, "Yes, this I can do." Starts beating up on this adolescent Rancor. They trade blows, and by the end, it's like Muhammad Ali and George Foreman, right? Who can last the longest? Or just just trading blows, which was pretty exciting. A good way to see that end. Everyone else comes in, "Oh, how's he doing?" "Oh, he's lost a step or two, but they're on the last couple of punches. Just go down, fall asleep." Finally, Muchi falls asleep, and they're gonna bring her back to Sid. In the meantime, we finally see who Sid has been working for. First it was a hologram, and then he comes out, Beep Fortuna. My Walawanka. Speaking Huttese, which I love Huttese in Star Wars, sounds so awesome. That's one thing that if you hear Huttese, you know you're watching Star Wars. So Jabba the Hutt's name is never mentioned, but he does say my employer needs. Sid does say Jabba the Hutt's right hand person or man comes to visit. And he's like, yeah, we need Muchi back. Someone took her from us. We need Muchi back. So here we go. So the big dilemma for Muchi. Is Muchi the same Rancor as Patisa? Like Dale said. If you are like Dale and a lot of people out there who know who Patisa was, that there was a name for it, that is a male Rancor, Muchi is a female Rancor, then no, it's completely different Rancors. Then the other side of the argument is, are they retconning something again? At the beginning of the series, they did a small retcon of Order 66 for the way Depa Banava and Caleb Dune deal with Order 66. People got some issue with it. So are they retconning again and now saying that Patisa in Return of the Jedi is actually Muchi? Again, I don't care. It's a Rancor. If it's Muchi, Patisa, the same one, different ones, I don't care. It doesn't change the story. The name changes. Again, it doesn't change the story, which is Luke Skywalker killed a Rancor. Is it Muchi? Then we gotta go, Luke. You've been losing it, Luke. In A New Hope, you were killing Womp Rats. Poor Womp Rats just trying to live, you were killing them. If you kill Muchi in Return of the Jedi, we got a problem now. Because now this is a pattern. A lot of psychopaths out there, they start killing little kitties, little cats, then graduate to humans. So if you started killing Womp Rats, then Muchi, and then whatever happened with Ben Solo, maybe it's your fault, Luke. I'm just saying. You gotta be careful, Luke. There's a pattern growing. I hope that wasn't Muchi. This says Patisa. Again, it's good fun. For me, it doesn't change the story. It doesn't make something better or worse if it's the retconning the name of the Rancor. Again, there's bigger things to complain about or want to be enforced. The name of a Rancor that's not named in the movie, I believe, is not one of them. So have fun with it. Patisa, Muchi, it's all cool. So then basically the episode ends. They go back to Sid. Fortuna's there. And the Gamorrean guards, awesome seeing them. They take Muchi and they leave. And then Sid takes Hunter, dark and broody, back to her office and shows, hey, this is Fennec Shan, brand new bounty hunter in the scene, but she's making a name for herself. So if she's after you guys, you got a problem. I reached out to my guild folks, and she, excuse me, I ate right before I started recording, so I got a little bit of gas, so we're good. So Sid also said Fennec Shan is working on a direct commission. So someone directly hired her to go after them. According to Sid, so from what Sid knows, Fennec Shan is after the Bad Batch, not after Omega. Of course, she can keep a secret. Wink, I can keep a secret, don't worry. Don't trust her. Don't trust her. But then again, who hired her for this direct commission? Again, we go to Boba Fett. Is it Boba Fett that in Clone Wars had started his own gang? I think it was the Crate Claw is the name of his bounty hunter group. Is it that? Is it him? I mean, is it someone else that we haven't heard? Is it someone from the Empire? Was it Tarkin? It's not gonna be Moff Gideon. I don't know where Gideon is at this point. He's part of the Empire. Who knows what he's doing? But it all points to Boba Fett being the one that hired Fennec Shan, and then that, of course, extends to their appearance in Season 2 of Mandalorian, and then with the Book of Boba Fett coming out, and both of them being most likely the lead of the show. So very cool to see where Fennec Shan's story continues. And that was basically it. The episode was a fun adventure, basically that they just needed to find who this bounty hunter was that was after them. And then a fun action adventure happens in between. So I know some people say it was filler. It didn't. It gives you a little bit more of Omega. Like I said, this episode worked for me as an Omega on the fence. Start jumping into that bandwagon. As I said, I got half a hand and a leg already on that wagon. Let's see where it goes. So very interesting. For the past 2 episodes, we haven't seen Crosshair. He was mentioned today because that comm device that they gave Omega used to belong to Crosshair. Tech says it doesn't look like he needs it anymore, so it's yours now. Where's Crosshair? Where's the Empire? We haven't seen Tarkin, the Empire, that other new guy that I forget his name, Crosshair and his new division. We haven't seen them for 2 episodes. So is it next week that they're going to come? I want to hear from you guys. What do you think? When it's Crosshair coming back and the Empire, and follow that thread? Because last two only focusing on the Bad Batch, getting supplies, getting fuel for the ship. Now they're getting some extra money from Sid doing this work. Another cool thing, we might see Sid again because she tells them, hey, this is the life of mercenaries. And I might, if you need more money, come find me. And Hunter said, I'll think about it. So maybe we see Sid again and we see the Bad Batch becoming more mercenaries. That was, if I'm not mistaken, before the series started, that was one of the rumors out there. Are they going to be this mercenary group? The series didn't start that way, so maybe it goes to that, or they do some more of those type of jobs. So interesting if it goes that route a little bit. Interesting to see Sid again start getting some recurring characters. We know Fennec Shan is coming back. If we get more Sid, it's awesome. I love that Trandoshan design. So we'll see. Hopefully next week, some people are starting to get nervous because this week was a light episode, very fun and engaging. Maybe next week takes a turn to the dark. So we'll see. Rancor didn't hit his head. I mean, he hit his head a couple of times because Mushi threw him against a couple of rocks. But at the beginning, he's holding his head. He has a headache again. So they're still inching at it. Little by little, they keep pointing at Rancor having issues with his head. I think it's too obvious. I think they're just telegraphing that something's going to happen to his inhibitor chip and he will be the next one to turn. I think it's too obvious and something else is going to happen. But again, like I mentioned last week, if Rancor turns and then goes against the Bad Batch, especially in that ship or they're all together, it's going to be very difficult for them to overpower Rancor and be able to get out of there. So we'll see how that plays out. All right, so what do you guys think about episode 5, Rampage of the Bad Batch? Let us know on the chat, down on the comments if you want later, or just tweet at us what your thoughts are on Rampage and Bad Batch in general. Before we move on to our next topic, which is our review of Thrawn Ascendancy. So one thing we forgot to mention last week when we were talking about the Bad Batch and some of the conversation out there is the Bad Batch too similar to the Mandalorian? And is it following the same type of tropes and arcs that we've seen before? Mandalorian, we thought it was going to be this badass bounty hunter just wrecking shop, and on episode 1 he finds Grogu, or the child at that point is just Mando and the child going through different adventures and learning to be a family and taking care of each other. And this child that has some special abilities that no one really knows about, and then the Empire and bounty hunters are chasing them because they want Grogu. Is it the same thing with the Bad Batch? This group of 4 started with still 5 because of Echo, and now Omega. I don't know how many are there out now. There's too many people on the Bad Batch that we thought was going to be one thing. They're either joining the Empire and then coming out of it or whatever after Order 66. And on episode 1, now it's this group of buff guys that you think are extra masculine, taking this child under their wing, protecting her, and going on adventures while bounty hunters and the Empire are after them or after this child because there's something with her. With Grogu, we learn on episode 2 of The Mandalorian, Grogu had the Force, so that's why the Empire wants him. Why does the Empire want Omega? We still don't know. Has to do something with cloning. So is it the same premise, basically? A group of people, mercenaries, bounty hunters, similar armor, clones, taking in a child, caring for them, becoming a family, going on adventures while the Empire and bounty hunters chase after them. On paper, seems very similar. I can still say that the show's a little bit different, but I hope, being 16 episodes this first season, that something changes, that it veers somewhere else, so it doesn't keep feeling more and more like The Mandalorian and following the same type of stories. So we'll see. What do you guys think? Is the Bad Batch so far too similar to The Mandalorian? Let us know in the comments, let us know in the chat, and we'll keep talking about it. All right, let me take a drink of water. when will we see Fennec Shand again? You think we'll see her again? Not next week, maybe in about 2 or 3 weeks. I think maybe we'll see. All right. So our second topic today is the review of Chaos Rising. Not Chaos Rising. Sorry, Thrawn Ascendancy, Greater Good, the second book on the Thrawn trilogy, the new Thrawn trilogy, because we've already had one canon Thrawn trilogy. This is the second one, following the basically a prequel. We're learning the history of Thrawn, how he became this master tactician. All right, so again, this is going to be a spoiler review. So if you haven't read Greater Good yet, don't worry about it. Pause this video, stop it, go read Thrawn, come back. It's a good book. It's not a quick read, but after you've done it, come back, watch the review. Let me know what you guys thought about it. All right. So if you follow the show, follow me on Twitter, you know that was lukewarm, a little bit warmer on Chaos Rising, the first of this new Thrawn trilogy. I said it was too similar to all the other Thrawn books. He was thrown into a situation that only Thrawn knew how to get out of, because he's the only one with the master plan, and he can see a ship changing course by 3 degrees and know exactly what was going to happen. So it felt very similar to all the other Thrawn books, so there wasn't any stakes. So I had some issues with it, and it wasn't an easy read. Greater Good, I can say, hits on those points and improves greatly, at least for me. For someone like myself that had certain issues with with Chaos Rising, Greater Good fixed those for the most part. If you're someone that loves the previous Thrawn books, love just focusing on Thrawn, the Master Tactician, you might have some issues with Greater Good, and I've seen those, and I'll talk about them in a minute as we go through our review. So real quick, the setup is more of a political thriller focused book, not a thriller, but a politically focused book. And the thing about the Chiss is that the politics are not the type of politics that we see in Star Wars, at least in the movies and in the Clone Wars TV show. It's familial politics. So the Chiss structure is just weird. It's weird, it's strange, and difficult to follow sometimes. There's the 9 ruling families that decide everything, and if you're not in the 9 ruling families, then you're trash. But now we learn that there's also 40 greater families or something like that are fighting for power to become part of the ruling families. That used to be 10 or 8. You can go up and down, and if you're in this group of 40 but you're somehow aligned to the 9 ruling families, then you have an in. But if someone from those 9 doesn't like you from your 40, then you're out. It's weird, and it's difficult to follow sometimes. And that's when Timothy Zahn's way of writing, either you get it or you'll be, I don't get this. It's a bit complicated. It is complicated, but I think Greater Good, it's an easier read than Chaos Rising. Maybe because you already have some of that backstory, but it's also an easier read, and I think it's explained a little bit better. General Yves the Benevolent, who was the bad guy in that first book, is mentioned a few times here. The Chiss have him and are using some of the information that he's given them to finish dealing with the Nicardun that were out there attacking the VAC Combine, so that Chiss the expansionary defense fleet is out there just finishing the job, basically. And then you still have from the Chiss family, Thurfian, and I'm gonna mess up all these names. That's one thing. Come on, Tim. Timothy's son. Tim, help me out. Throw me a bone. Throw me a Tom or a David, Rachel, Michael. Give me a name. Give me one of those names, because here we have Hapliv, we have Thurfian, Sistalmu. I'll say more names. The names are they're so difficult sometimes. I have here, let me find it real quick. There's a part that I'm reading. Look at all these names. Where is it? I lost it. Of course, I lost it. It doesn't matter. I'll find it in a minute. It's just names that all start with the same letter, like same five first letter to start. You get thrown off. You don't know who's who at some point. So those are my biggest point of contention. And I lost my track. So let me go back. So Thurfian and Sistalmo, which were these two, not they're part of the 9 ruling families. One is a myth, the other is a Irisi, which are two very important Chiss family. They're trying to get Thrawn the hell out. They don't like Thrawn. He bends the rules. They're trying to get rid of him. They did the same thing in the first book. They're doing it again here. But at least their plan is a little bit more. They worked a little bit more on their plan. They have a better idea. They just want to send Thrawn, give him a fake report that there's something happening at the edge of the chaos. 2 bands of pirates are joining together. You need to go deal with it, and then they can just destroy him or kill him. Or if he wins, he'll break some rule, and they'll have to just kick him out, and then they can get more into power. So that's what they want. So this book, we still have the memories, which goes to the past. In the first Thrawn book, the memories were just Thrawn going through the motion, not going through the motions, but Thrawn's history, basically. And what I didn't like about the memories in that first book, that everything that he did there, then there was basically an excuse for the things that he was doing during the present time. It was, oh, he did it before, so don't worry, he can do it again. Here, the memories are more on the villains, so you start learning more about them. So, all right, so let me just go through my review. I know, I'm sorry, I'm making a lot of noise here as I move my papers around. All right, so again, spoilers. So, family and honor. Family honor and duties are what's important to the Chiss, especially to Lakinda, who's one of the new characters, or one of the characters that we learn a lot more about in this book. Family, honor, and duties. So here we have family honor and military duties are at odds here. It's at war. Do you do what you need to do to help your family, or to help the Chiss in general? And that's a big point of contention, especially for Lakinda, who's very family oriented. That's their motto, honor and duty. To Thrawn, he doesn't care about anything. He doesn't do politics. He just we gotta protect the Chiss. The Chiss Ascendancy is the most important thing. I don't care about who I'm hurting, whose feelings I'm hurting. So that comes into play here a lot, and that's why all the political intrigue that Thrawn doesn't know how to deal with is gonna come back and bite him. So Timothy Zahn returns with our favorite Chiss senior captain as he is faced with an enemy that dismantles its adversaries not with overwhelming starship but from within, driving a wedge so deep that it takes them to a civil war. So here we have Hapleaf, which is not the main bad, because we'll get to him in a minute, but this type of adversary that's gonna be very difficult for Thrawn to deal with, because it's not, we have this military power coming to attack you and Thrawn can just overthink them. He gets to know, he does very similarly what Thrawn does in terms that he learns the Chiss structure, their politics, their way of life, and uses that against them. So that's where the memories come in. They go back and forth on how Hapleaf of the Akbui is learning more about the Chiss. So for greater good, Zahn follows, like I mentioned, the same structure as before, weaving the story between current day action and the memories that give us more insight into some of the main characters' past. In Chaos Rising, like I mentioned before, it was Thrawn, but here we are seeing events unfold from the villain's point of view, as we learn more about Hapleaf of the Akbui and main big bad Jixtus, a mysterious alien that has been controlling the events in the chaos. So another great thing about Chaos Rising, Greater Good, it's that all these memories are happening at the same time as the events of Chaos Rising. So in Chaos Rising, we know that a lot of it started because some ships of refugees came to this planet, and Thrawn found 2 of them ship. Everything else was destroyed. Almost everyone on board was dead. They didn't know what had happened. And then here we learn who were those refugees, where they came from, and all that's from the memories and all the things that we start to learn on this book. Yes, Dale, going back, because we're talking about Bad Batch and kids. Yeah, I have two kids, and that's ages. And we don't know how old Omega is, right? I'm guessing between 8 and 10, maybe 10 to 11. My kids are in that range. So that's why I know what they're going through. So I know that's why I'm starting to dig Omega a little bit. Um, so the main story is subdivided into three simultaneous events in which the Chiss are dealing with stragglers from their battle with the new Cardum and Yves the Benevolent from the first book, a mysterious group of refugees that wants to join the Beyond. They said, our planet is dead, everyone is dead, we need to sacrifice ourselves, join the Beyond, and that way from the Beyond we can help heal the planet. And then we learn that this is very similar to the Force. They just want to join the cosmic force and help the planet from the nether realms of the Force, but they call that the Beyond. So one cool thing about doing the book in the outer regions or the unknown regions, we start learning more about the Force. What we know the Force to be, the Chiefs call it third sight, and now we hear it as the Beyond. So the same concept from three different cultures, very different, the way of living, but still seeing the cosmic force in some way, or the Force in some way that makes sense to their way of life. Uh, and then also a possible alliance between two rival factions that together might threaten the Chiss Ascendancy. So that's the story. We have our Lani that we met in the first book dealing with the Nicardum threat. We have Thrawn at one point having to deal with these two rival factions that might threaten them away on the other edge of the chaos, and then Lakinda dealing with something else in the middle, and then the bad guys with Hapleaf and Jigstoo's moving pieces around the chessboard. So it's three stories in one. So this three-pronged narrative has our main cast separated for most of the book, but allows all of them to breathe outside of Thrawn and his machinations. And what I mean by this is Thrawn takes over anything. If Thrawn's in any chapter of the book, he's going to be the main focus. And that takes away from the other characters, which was one of my issues with Chaos Rising. I said, yeah, Thrawn's there, Thrawn is great. I didn't care too much about the secondary cast. A supporting cast, I didn't learn a lot about them. I didn't care about them. Here, completely different. Thrawn is on one end, our line is on one side, and Lakinda's on the other. So we learn a lot about all of them. So on the second book of this Thrawn Ascendancy trilogy, Timothy Zahn was able to put out, like I mentioned before, to ease the concerns that I had after reading Chaos Rising. Here we get to spend more time with the supporting cast, get to know their motivations, and let us create a connection with them, or at least for me, a connection that I didn't get in Chaos Rising. The highlight of the returning cast is Lakinda. We didn't get a lot with Lakinda on that first book. We get basically half the book is from her point of view, and I love learning more about Lakinda. It's a great character. It's gonna play an even bigger role in Lesser Evil when it comes out later this year. So we have a mid-cap. So Lakinda's a mid-captain of the Sodlak family, which is not part of the 9 ruling family, but of the 40 greater, and they want to join. So that's why anything that she does has to be by the book for the family. So she's pushed between loyalty and honor to her family and loyalty to her commanding officers and the Chiss expansionary defense fleet. Where does her loyalties lie? And that's even in the back of the book. You can see between fleet and family, where does her loyalty lie? And that's not for Thrawn, that's for Lakinda. So again, a book about Thrawn, the back cover is talking about a different character. She wants to prove that she's worthy of praise, but always seems to come short or has to submit to Thrawn's crazy plans and wild tactics. And even if she's in the middle of the battle, the glory always goes to Thrawn, and she's done with it. She's tired of it. She has to find a way of breaking out from that, and by the end of the book, she finds a way. It's going to be very interesting moving forward. For Thrawn, like I mentioned, who is oblivious by choice, he can. It's going to be very interesting if he decides to learn more about political ramifications of the Ascendancy inside the Chiss structure. But this might be the first battle that he's not prepared for, because he doesn't care. Politics, you do whatever you do. I'm here to save lives. That's not this trilogy. It's very political, and Thrawn is ill prepared for it. So we'll see how much that's going to play into book 3. So luckily for Thrawn, and maybe not for some of the readers, like I mentioned before, he's not present for a lot of the action, especially the ones dealing with politics, the political fallout, or everything that is happening. But it was also by design, since Jixtus, he had heard about Thrawn, heard that he might be a problem. He wanted him as far away from what he was doing. So the one that told, or that put into the back of the mind of Thorfinn and Sistalmu that there was something brewing between those rival pirate factions on the outer edge of the chaos was Jixtus and Haplif. That got to Thrawn. He got sent out to the other side of the chaos, so that way they could control the actual closer to home, which was a great job by Haplif and Jixtus. Just get Thrawn out of the narrative or out of the equation. We don't have to deal with him. I was fine with this omission, like I said before, because one of my biggest critiques of Thrawn and of Son during my previous review was that nothing ever faced Thrawn. He was always ready for action. He always had an answer, so it didn't have any stakes. The book didn't have any stakes, as you know, nothing was going to happen. Thrawn will find a way. Here it's different, because it's a totally different cast of characters. We don't know what's going to happen. So since he wasn't present for most of it, it created that every battle and every dilemma, you didn't know how it was going to turn out. So that made the book more interesting, at least for myself. Not to say that Thrawn and his unmatchable military mind weren't in display. There's a lot. We get plenty of Thrawn being Thrawn. From being the only one to notice a dismal change in enemy battle tactics to coming out with the wildest attack plans imaginable, Thrawn is still the Chiss to beat. When Jixtus comes calling in Lesser Evil, Thrawn is still going to be the one to beat. But in this book, he played a smaller role, and I was 100% on board with it. So the villains or adversaries, because there might not be villains if you might understand the way they're coming from, they're more fleshed out and are more interesting in this book than on the previous one. From the Chiss side, like I mentioned a few times, we have Thorfinn. These Chiss names, come on, son, throw me a team. Give me a team. Give me a name I can pronounce. Thorfinn and Sistalmu. So their plan and motivation to remove Thrawn are better laid out, and by the end, with Lakinda's possible family upgrade, then Thrawn might be facing an uphill battle from within the Chiss. Thorfinn, who is also a myth, same as Thrawn, part of the non-ruling family, became the patriarch, the myth patriarch. So he's basically the one in charge of all the myth. So now he has a way to control Thrawn a little bit more. And Lakinda, who was part of this other ruling family, now is going to be part of the Sith, not the other. So I'll tell you in a second, because I have it here, sorry. Irisi. So Lakinda won't be anymore part of her family. Sistalmu, which is the one working with Thorfinn, offered her to become a trial born of the Irisi. And now her name is going to won't be Lakinda anymore. Her name is going to be Zinda. She's a cool name. I do like Zinda a little bit better than Lakinda. So Zinda, again, names. I think that's my biggest pet peeve, or my biggest issue with this book. So just one character has 3 or 4 different names. But come Lesser Evil, Thrawn is going to have to deal with a new patriarch in the Myth family that doesn't care about him. Lakinda, now part of the Irisi family, now she's part of the 9 ruling family, and she has other motivations. So we'll see what's going to happen. And that's just from within the Sith. Outside of the Sith, we have Haplif and Jixtus, 2 aliens working together to expand Jixtus' reach inside the chaos, but doing it so in a way that the Chiss, specifically Thrawn, are not well equipped to handle, which is from within, attacking their familial and their political structure. Both are very menacing, especially that first few chapters. That first memory with Hapleaf and Jigsaw sets the tone for both of them. They're both menacing, smart, and motivated. Although Hapleaf gets the majority of the pages here, it is Jigsaw who I'm interested in learning more of, especially since we learned, by the end of the book, that his species are the Grisk, which are the aliens that were the villains in the previous Thrawn trilogy. And they have this cloaking device for their weapons, I believe, for the weapons or their tractor, because he's very interested in knowing how the Chiss navigate through hyperspace. He doesn't know about Third Sight and the Skywalkers, so he wants to know about them. And then, if I remember a little bit about that first Thrawn trilogy, that's something that when they were traveling to hyperspace, they getting pulled out. And I think they have this machine that was cloaked that helped pull them out. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Jigsaw learns about it in the next book. Whew. So although I did enjoy Greater Good more than Chaos Rising, there were still a few points of contention. Chiss names, I mentioned it like 20 times already, is still an issue for me. And here I have it. Especially when we have names like Lakansu, Lakris, Lakpro, Lakjiv, and Lakuviv all mentioned in the same page. Like in 3 paragraphs, you get all those 5 or 6 names, all very similar because they all come from the same family. It comes a point that you don't know who's who. It can get very confusing. Also, the build-up. The build-up to the aftermath of that final battle that would lay bare all the inner conflict of the Chiss family dilemmas that we've been going for 400 pages was basically brushed aside under the rug because no one wanted to deal with it. It's going to play a huge part moving forward to Lesser Evil, but here was, okay, don't worry about it. We all got duped. We all got played for fools. Let's not say anything. So I'll mention it real quick because it is a spoiler review, so I'll say it. So Jigsaw and Hapleaf had made it into the Chaos, into the Ascendancy, and tricked 3 different families from the 40 greater families into believing that there's this mine, that they have this mine with precious metal in this planet. It's an abandoned planet. It's just there. When in reality, that planet was where all these refugees were, the ones that want to join the Beyond, the Magais, that used to be their planet. They got run out of there by Hapleaf and by Nicardum and Yves the Benevolent in the previous book. That's where all those refugees came from. They got played into believing that this was up for the taking, basically. So 3 rival Chiss family arrive at the planet at the same time, about to have a war between the 3 of them to take that planet under their family's name. But Thrawn comes in, does what he needs to do, and is able to save the day. But there's nothing happens. Nothing happens to the families. They don't talk about what happened. It doesn't break everything apart. It's just, we all got duped. We're not going to talk about it. Okay, bye. That ending, there was really no resolution. That's where it kind of lost a little bit for me. All right, let me take a sip of water before we go into our ratings or our score for the different sections of Chaos Rising. Before we do that, let's finish up with Dale real quick. We're talking about kids. Again, Star Wars and kids, Mandalorian, and now Bad Batch. So yeah, I said I have 2 kids, similar ages to Omega. He said, are they killing themselves sometimes? You don't have to answer that. Sorry, I did. I know how kids are. It just alerted me. So yeah, there's a lot of screaming. And where I live, my neighbor has kids almost the same age in front of me. Like 2 of the 3 neighbors have kids a little bit younger. So yeah, there's a lot of yelling and screaming, but they're getting better. I mean, I'm the youngest of 3, so I know how it can go, but it's all good at the end. Their birthdays are coming up. They're going to be 11 and 8, so a 3-year difference. So there's still, one is obviously more mature than the other, but they still get along. But kids, man, that's why the way Omega is starting to remind me a little bit, especially with that walkie-talkie thing. So we'll see. Whew. Okay, so let's round this out as we're reaching the end of our show. So, excuse me again, Greater Good. For story. So story, even though I had some issues with it, for probe droids. I can't say anything bad about Timothy Zahn's writing. I can't say he's not a good writer. He's a great writer. It's a great story. I was engaged, like I mentioned before, not having it always through Thrawn's point of view or him being the one that leads the action. It made me like the characters more, like made me more engaged on the story because I didn't know where it was going and who was gonna come out on top. So story 4 probe droids out of 5. Ease of reading. And here is sorry. Ease of reading, we're back again out of 3. Chaos Rising was probably 2.5. So it's a 420 more or less pages long. So it is a long book, not as long as Victory Prize. It's a little bit easier to read than Victory Prize. Victory Prize took me like a month and a half, I think. This one just a week or so. I took my time with it. So it's not an easy read. If you know Thrawn, if you know Timothy Zahn's style, then you can go through it a little bit quicker. But it's still not an easy read like some of the High Republic books. So, okay, not perfect, but 3 probe droids out of 5 for ease of reading. So we follow with our next category, new characters. I give it a 4. So great characters. Now go to Lakinda. Lakinda might not be a new character, but it seemed like it because she got fleshed out the most. We don't get a lot with Bakif, who was a big force in the first book, maybe a couple of pages. Lani just mentioned a little bit more, especially at the beginning and then in the last battle. But here, this is Lakinda's show. Thrawn and Lakinda. Then you have Hap Leaf of the Akbui, who gets a lot, and Yves and Jixtus. So new characters, great characters are introduced. Hap Leaf didn't make it to the end. He got killed by a farmer, like Kuviv, I think it was. Again, he was doing bad things. So Hap Leaf didn't make it, but good character throughout. And then, of course, our main bad, Jixtus. So canon connection, I give it a 3.5. It connects great to Greater Good, obviously, to Chaos Rising, connects a little bit to the other Thrawn trilogy books, now with the Grisk in play, the mention of the Force. So 3.5, a good canon connection, setting everything up for what's going to be this final book, Lesser Evil, in November. Then expand Star Wars. So this is something you gotta give it a high mark. So expand Star Wars 4 probe droids out of 5. You learn more about the Chiss way of life, their political ramifications of every action that they take. Everything is recorded so it can be used against you afterward. One thing that, even though I didn't like it too much because it just goes on and on in the memories with Hap Leaf and these 2 people about to get married in their year abroad, basically just touring the chaos. So you learn more about the Chiss, but it's a little bit long, a little bit windy. They're going to this bird migration. But that's how Hap Leaf learns more about the chaos, about the Chiss. So it has to be there, but it does expand Star Wars. The unknown regions are growing, and that's thanks to Greater Good. So finally, what's our overall score for Star Wars Thrawn Ascendancy Greater Good by the great Timothy Zahn? Our final score is 3 3/4. So 3 3/4 probe droid for Greater Good. So an improvement from Chaos Rising, which was 3.5. If you like Greater Good, sorry, I keep confusing it. If you like Chaos Rising, you will like Greater Good, even though there's less Thrawn in it. So that might be a little bit of a change. But if you were like me, that had some issues with Greater Good, the pace, not the pacing, but the way that the story is written, Greater Good fixes those in my eyes. So give this book a chance. If you love Thrawn, if you like Timothy Zahn, if you want to learn more about the unknown regions, give it a shot. Greater Good. I give it a passing grade. I used to check it. Del Rey, Star Wars, another great book by Del Rey. Someday I'll have Del Rey send me some advanced copies, hopefully, and we can review them here when they come out. So that's it. Look at that. Perfect hour. 1 hour. That's what we want to do. Try to keep this show to a solid hour. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you, Tony, Mr. Rez. Thank you, Dale. Great to have you here again. even if it's just an ear here while you're working. But great, keep working on your garden, everyone's garden that you're doing over there, and everything else. Thank you, guys. See you next week when we. Oh, so I was gonna say this earlier. I didn't. I'll put it on Twitter later. Next week we'll go live. It's gonna be an early show. It's gonna be a morning show, probably between 10 or 11 in the morning. I have to drive down to Tampa to the airport to pick someone up, pick my mother-in-law, and I'm gonna be on the road at 5 in the afternoon. So we'll go live early in the morning, do our review of episode 6 of the Bad Batch. Probably a quick show next week, Saturday morning. And then we have a few guests coming in weeks after those, so keep an eye out. Keep an eye out. So thank you guys as always for being here. See you guys next week. You know what the deal is. Stay safe, be safe, and may the force be with you.
Radio Rebellion.